Your insiders, Chris Johnston, Pierre Lebrun, and Darren Dreger. Guys, felt like we spent a couple of years talking about where Jakob Chychrun would end up if he was moved out of Arizona. And now he finally goes to Ottawa. And within a year, could he be possibly on the move again, Dregs?
Yeah, he could be, but it's a positional decision if Steve Staios and the Ottawa Senators decide to go down that road. I mean, just look at the financials here for a moment as well. You've got Thomas Chabot and Jake Sanderson, both under long-term contracts. Two left-shot defensemen like Jakob Chychrun making $8 million. Now, Staios and company like Chychrun. He's got a year left after this year on his contract before that expires. So there is some work that would have to get done perhaps as early as the offseason. But here's what's interesting. Teams are calling on Jakob Chychrun. So obviously Staios has to listen. It would take a substantial offer. Not sure it gets done by the deadline, but I think the listing continues into the summer.
Tough season in Ottawa, tough last few weeks in LA after a great start to the season, only one win in 10 games. And how hot is the heat there, CJ?
Well, it's getting turned up. I mean, certainly never a good sign when you're the general manager like Rob Blake and you're asked publicly about whether you're thinking about firing your coach, in this case, Todd McLellan. And on this day, Blake did tell reporters that that's not something that's even remotely crossed his mind. But I think it is a sign of where things are at. That team had won one of its last 10 games entering play Thursday. There's not a lot of hope on the horizon or a lot of help anyway in terms of a trade action because the Kings do not have much room when it comes to the cap at this point in time. But McLellan did sign an extension just before the season. He signed through next year, had a lot of success there. They're going to try to keep things as positive as they can and get out of this themselves.
Okay, I know it's tough to make a move, but goaltending is one of the issues. And look, Juuse Saros has been one of the faces of the Nashville Predators and one of the best goalies in the league for years, and they've said they want to extend him with 1 year left on his contract, Pierre. But is there any possibility that Nashville would move Saros?
Look at you trying to play matchmaker there, James. I caught on to that. You know, there is a possibility, which is amazing those words are coming out of my mouth because Nashville has been so steady in saying their only plan is to extend Juuse Saros this summer, and that remains the number one plan. But what has changed since the start of the year is a number of teams that are desperate to upgrade their goaltending. And because of that, I'm told that the Predators feel they have no choice but to listen if a team puts in a serious offer. What I mean by that is don't throw a couple first-round picks, which would be in the low 20s at the Nashville Predators. That's not going to get Barry Trotz to blink. Let's take LA as an example. If they threw in a name like Quinton Byfield as part of a package, that would get the attention of the Nashville Predators, any organization, if they want to get in on Saros. It's a huge name. They still plan to sign him, but it's something to monitor before March 8th.
The Flames' recent winning streak has them right back in the middle of the playoff picture. How does that affect Craig Conroy's dealing before the deadline, Dregs?
Yeah, it definitely does, especially when you look at this week and the games ahead. I mean, two tough matchups against Toronto and the Edmonton Oilers, a total of 5 games before the All-Star break. So I look at Noah Hanifin as an example. It's not out of the question, as we know, that he could extend with the Calgary Flames. I think that determination will be made soon after the All-Star break. But if things don't go well in the near future, maybe that pushes Conroy to make a decision well in advance of March 8th. Conversely, if they do go well and they're winning games and they're staying in the mix, then maybe Conroy pushes the decision closer to that March 8th trade deadline.
A lot of talk about Jake Guentzel's future in Pittsburgh. What's the latest there, Pierre?
You know, Kyle Dubas came out this week on his weekly radio appearance in Pittsburgh, James, and he said, you know, I've not had any trade discussions with other teams, and I think that's absolutely true. But what he can't say is what he's going to end up doing, because I think this is one of the toughest decisions of the entire trade deadline, is what to do with this pending UFA. This is an aging team. Can you give this guy an 8-year contract to go along with all the other long-term commitments that you have in this aging core? Kyle Dubas has said the second half performance of this team will dictate what I do with Jake Guentzel, but they're right on the bubble, and that makes it a tough call.
And CJ, Amazon takes a dip into the NHL. Could this be a sign of things to come?
Yeah, it's like looking into the future, I believe. On Wednesday, there was a deal announced that they're going to try to invest in Diamond Sports. Of course, that entity being in bankruptcy court, that would see professional sports games, local games put on Amazon Prime. And I think when the NHL looks ahead to its national TV contracts, only 2 more seasons beyond this one in Canada, 4 more years in the U.S., they are expecting certainly a lot of interest from streaming services. So I think we should all get accustomed to a shifting media landscape.
Well said. Insider trading from TSN Hockey.